During World War II, soldiers and field operatives developed some truly ingenious methods to stay warm in tents under those harsh, unheated conditions. These techniques went way beyond just standard blankets and fires. They were really born of necessity, using every available resource as efficiently as possible. Even today, these methods remain valuable for history enthusiasts, reenactors, and survivalists who are looking for practical ways to maintain warmth during cold weather camping or historical demonstrations. The core principle behind the World War II tent warmth technique was all about maximizing insulation while minimizing fuel and exposure to the elements. Soldiers needed warmth without drawing any unwanted attention or creating smoke that could, reveal their positions. They pulled this off with layered bedding, clever heat retention, and improvised insulating materials, stuff that's often overlooked nowadays. Start by understanding just how soldiers layered for heat retention. The first step in recreating this method is, mastering layered insulation. Soldiers often began with a ground barrier to prevent heat loss to the earth. This could be something as simple as a canvas ground sheet, overlaid with pine boughs, straw, or even hay. The main goal was to create a buffer between the sleeper and the cold ground. In modern applications, a thick foam pad or sleeping mat can mimic this principle pretty effectively. The layer closest to the body was always dry and breathable, usually wool or flannel sheets, which trapped heat without letting moisture build up. Above this base, soldiers used multiple layers of blankets or military surplus sleeping bags. They often rolled blankets to form a cocoon effect around the torso and limbs, leaving just minimal gaps where cold air could sneak in. The idea wasn't just to cover up, but to compress layers strategically so body heat would circulate between them. Even folding blankets over the feet or tucking them into the mattress perimeter was standard practice. For a practical approach today, you can combine a lightweight sleeping bag with a thick wool blanket folded and tucked around the sleeper to really emulate this historical technique. Use of improvised heat retention materials was key. Back in World War II, soldiers had to be resourceful with whatever was at hand. Sandbags, extra clothing, newspapers, or even empty ration tins filled with warm water. These were all used to create localized heat. Tents themselves were insulated by hanging spare blankets or canvas sheets along the walls to prevent drafts and reduce heat loss through that thin fabric. Modern campers, they can replicate this by suspending heavy blankets along tent walls or between tent layers to form an additional insulating barrier. An often overlooked tactic was the placement of what folks called heat pockets. Soldiers would create small zones within the tent where body heat could accumulate, like grouping sleeping arrangements together or partially enclosing a smaller tent within the main tent to concentrate warmth. This principle still holds true today. In cold camping scenarios, arranging sleeping areas to minimize air circulation can really increase comfort without needing to add a heat source. Heat from compact, contained sources was controlled carefully. Open flames inside tents were extremely dangerous, so World War II soldiers relied on small, contained heat sources. Heated metal cans, hot water bottles wrapped in cloth, and even improvised charcoal braziers were used, but always with caution. The key was making sure the heat source radiated warmth without risking combustion of the tent or bedding. For modern applications, using hot water bottles or chemical heat packs safely inside insulated pouches can replicate this effect. Place them near your feet or by your torso, and the residual warmth can last for hours if the insulation is layered correctly around it. A surprising aspect of these historical techniques was the attention to ventilation. While it might seem counterintuitive, soldiers knew that trapping moisture could make layers feel colder and, dampen insulation efficiency. Small tent flaps were left slightly open to allow airflow without creating drafts. The practical lesson today is to ensure that insulation layers remain dry. Synthetic or natural moisture-wicking materials closest to the body, with heavier blankets over, will prevent heat loss caused by condensation inside the sleeping space. Every detail from sleeping posture to tent placement mattered. Soldiers weren't just passive recipients of warmth. They actively position themselves to maximize heat retention. Sleeping curled or slightly fetal reduced exposed surface area, and legs were kept together under tucked blankets. Tent placement in relation to prevailing winds, natural windbreaks like trees, and the use of elevation to avoid cold ground seepage all contributed to survival-level warmth. Modern campers can take notes from this. Even minor adjustments, such as placing a tent behind a dense hedge or on slightly raised ground, can enhance the effectiveness of historical insulation methods. Layered textiles made a measurable difference. Wool, flannel, and canvas were preferred for their insulating properties and durability. Soldiers combined materials strategically, wool against the skin or over sleeping bags, canvas or burlap between layers to compress heat pockets, and flannel sheets for comfort and additional thermal regulation. Today, historical reenactors or survivalists can recreate this layering system using modern analogs. Synthetic or wool sleeping bags, canvas or cotton blankets, and thick coverlets to replicate the effect without losing historical accuracy. To apply these lessons today, you'll want to start by laying a thick insulated mat or, just a few layers of blankets on the tent floor. Then, add a layer of straw pine boughs or even some crumpled newspaper for a bit of extra insulation. Place your sleeping bag on top of that, followed by a folded wool blanket, making sure to tuck it around your body to minimize any gaps. Go ahead and position a hot water bottle or a chemical heat pack near your feet and hang a few extra blankets along the tent walls. Remember to leave a small vent for moisture to escape and, sleep curled up with your feet and hands tucked under all those layers. By following these steps, you're really applying the same principles soldiers used during World War II to stay warm in unheated conditions. This method not only keeps you warm, but honestly, it deepens your understanding of historical living conditions. You start to appreciate the ingenuity and practical knowledge soldiers developed under some pretty extreme conditions, turning history into a real, tangible survival skill. Studying World War II warmth methods does more than just satisfy historical curiosity. It actually informs modern preparedness and camping efficiency. Techniques that were born out of necessity are often more resourceful than, say, a lot of modern conveniences, putting the focus on low-tech solutions, efficient use of resources, and, a little strategic thinking. By integrating these historical strategies, you can reduce your reliance on bulky modern gear, boost your self-reliance, and gain a richer understanding of what daily life was like back then. World War II tent insulation techniques show us that warmth is not just about adding heat, but really about managing layers, moisture, and airflow intelligently. Applying these lessons today lets history enthusiasts and survivalists recreate historical conditions safely while still achieving practical and effective results. Adopting these methods gives you a direct connection to the ingenuity of soldiers in the field, allowing you to experience history firsthand while, staying warm and comfortable. With careful preparation, you can replicate these techniques to survive harsh conditions, whether it's for historical reenactment, winter camping, or maybe even emergency preparedness. Understanding these principles also highlights how soldiers optimize scarce resources, which really demonstrates the importance of strategic thinking in survival scenarios. By recreating this system in modern settings, you are not just staying warm, you're engaging in a living lesson in history, applying centuries of accumulated knowledge in real time. The next time you prepare a winter campout or historical demonstration, remember the lessons from World War II soldiers. Layer your bedding thoughtfully, insulate against drafts, use small controlled heat sources, and manage moisture and airflow. You'll gain warmth, comfort, and a deeper appreciation for the resilience and ingenuity of those who lived and survived under extreme conditions. Don't forget to subscribe to Living for the Seasons for more deep dives into historical techniques, and hey, share this guide with fellow enthusiasts. Applying these lost strategies not only enhances your outdoor experiences but keeps the knowledge alive for generations of history buffs and survivalists.